All right, William, we made it. Thank you for coming on the
Yeah.
show, dude.
Thank you for having me.
Well, cool, man. First time on the show. You got to introduce yourself, man. Who you are, what you done, and what's going on in your life right now.
Yeah. So nothing really bigger or badder than anyone else that's been on, but my name is William Benini. I hail from Delaware. I'm here on the Eastern Shore. I've been doing the kayak thing now 5 or 6 years, maybe a little bit longer. Started in the big boat world, moved my way down, or lateral, however you want to look at it, over into the kayaks. Start competing. Had a little luck for a while, and then just here about a year and a half ago, our local series was looking for some new leadership, and I'd spent. I'm one of those guys. If you're talking about how you can make it better, you get the opportunity, you better step up to the bat and do it. So we took
Yeah.
over our local series here, and we're growing it and making some big things with it. And this year, we're finally taking some time for a lot of us to get back into competing since we've been building the series for so long, and that's really who I am.
Cool, man. Where in Delaware are you from?
So I'm in Magnolia. I've been in Kent County my entire life. So
Okay.
I am right next to the water. Like if you're going to the beach where everyone goes, you literally drive by my house on your way down.
Okay, so my dad's close to Dover, Viola, Delaware, I think is what it's called. I
Your
don't know.
dad's about 3 miles from me then.
Okay, cool. All right, well, next time I'm down that way, I'm going to have to come fish with you.
Beer's on me. Come on, let's do it.
Well, what kind of fisheries have we got in Delaware? Like I've drove there a few times. I see some as I'm driving down the road. Obviously, you see the bay, the big bay. But I see a lot of like creeks and like
Hmm.
marsh and things like that. Like, tell me what it's like to fish in that state. It's a
Think
small
of,
state, by the way. It takes about 30 minutes to drive through it, or an hour to drive through it. So
yeah. Well, think of a mud puddle, add a couple feet to it, leave the water about the same color, and that's what you're dealing with the majority of Delaware. Um, we got a lot of shallow ponds, small ponds, 300 acres, some even smaller than that. But then we do have some tidal fisheries that roll through. We have the Nanticoke River, and right to our north, we have the Chesapeake Bay. Obviously, a lot of people know the Upper Chesapeake. And then to our south, we have the Potomac, the Wycomico. We have a few rivers, not Susquehanna style rivers, what everyone thinks about with the big rocks and boulders. We deal with mud and slop, but still rivers and still tidal. But I tell you, and you come from Delaware, and I think a lot of the guys that will listen to this will agree. So a lot of good fish factories, even though we're small. A lot of good fish factories here in Delaware. They're untouched. They're unpressured.
I'm about to say, and you guys have one of the best. Like I got my kayak from Delaware, my new one. I went down there to was it Paddle Sport or Delaware Paddle Sports.
Yep.
Awesome place, awesome people. But like, there's a reason why that place is successful, and it's because like you have a lot of places that are good for kayaks. Like I don't know about the big boat scene down there, but I know there's a lot of good stuff like the kayakers. It's like the
Hmm.
ponds, which I love fishing like the larger ponds than I do the big lakes because what's the point of having a kayak? You know what I mean? I don't want to go where the big boats go. I want to go where the big boats can't go and hit those fish that they can't hit. But I don't know. I drove there and it looks like it's a mecca for like that kind of fishing, like that small water,
Oh yeah.
isolated pond type fishing.
We have some ponds here. We often talk about, especially when we're building tournaments out and stuff like that, access. Because we got ponds that don't even have boat ramps. You literally, we're cut your teeth kayakers, drop it out of the bed of the truck and carry it down to the water and go. But to your point, big boats, most of our bodies of water here in Kent and Sussex are no wake all the way through the body of water.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys don't ever have to deal with the big boats. They're still there, but guys want to run those glitter rockets. They want to take them
Right.
and run them. So they're on the rivers, they're on the bay. So we get a lot of these ponds to ourselves, and that's where you start to see a lot of the big fish come out of Delaware.
Oh, cool. Well, talk to me a little bit about your, the trail series that you started. Jake Harshman, a mutual friend of ours, is pretty excited about
Mhm.
all of them. I want to get into it. I mean, it's one of those things that I know it's already kind of started. I think we were probably 2 or 3 tournaments in.
Mhm.
Um, but I wish I would have planned this year better. I didn't. You're close enough where I can make those. I mean, you're about a 4, 5, 6 hour drive, and so next year is definitely something I'm going to put on my schedule, especially for those early tournaments because my tournament series doesn't really start till later this month, and like May 1st is the first tournament that I'm running. So I
There
need
you
to
go.
get down south and it's some warmer waters. It was really fun when I drove down to get my kayak. I left the blizzard, and I was driving down, and it just kept getting nicer and nicer and nicer and nicer. And then all of a sudden, I had a sweatshirt on, and sweatpants, but I got out of the truck to get my kayak, and I'm like, man, it's hot down here. I forgot what it's like to be down here. But
Yep.
but talk a little bit about your trail series, man.
Yeah, our trail series isn't much different than anyone else's. I think we all have gone through the same growing pains, you could say. We started off, first off, we're backed by Delaware Power Sports. That's where it started. They wanted a trail series, and it was something they put together, and we would throw cash in an envelope in a dude's truck, and we'd go out and fish, and we'd show them our pictures at the end, and whoever won went home with a wad of cash. I just knew, and I'm by no means alone in this. We have a president, Aaron, and three other guys and gals on our leadership team. We sat back, and when the opportunity came, there was a lot of, you saw Delaware Power Sports. There's a lot of boats going out of that place.
Oh, yeah.
So we knew there was an opportunity to do better. Not that what was happening before wasn't great. We just wanted to take it to the next level. So I come from a little bit of a marketing sales background from a professional standpoint. So I took on the social media side of it. We really got heavy into that. We took our rules and we really built it. That's what I think a lot of people really enjoy. We built it like it's a 100-boat series. We built it as close to Hobie as we could. Leadership teams, tournament committees, and we're only seeing 30, 35 people, but we've built it so that it can grow into that. And then when you do that and then talk to sponsors and they see the way you got your game put together, people are jumping all over. And then, of course, we got Delaware Power Sports backing us. That one of the larger retailers, arguably on the East Coast, if not the largest in the Mid-Atlantic. So when it's a lot easier for me to call a sponsor and say something, say, hey, I'd really like to get you to help us out. And they're like, oh, you're with Delaware Power Sports? Sure. Let's do this,
Yeah.
So that was year one. This year, a lot of advice from Jake. Spent a lot of time talking to Jake, and that's one of the things we do with our series. We reach out to the anglers, and we want to know, what do you like? What do you don't? Be transparent with me. Tell me. If it's bullshit, tell me it's bullshit. I'll fix it. But you got to build it for what they want, because that's who you're targeting. So we took the trail this year more in a financial direction. So like right now, if Jake won our last event, Jake had caught the big fish in that event, he'd have went home with almost $800.
Yeah.
My goal is to get to $1,000 payout per event in Delaware. Per event for first place. Now I'm not even talking total. I'm talking first place. And if I can get to that should put us in a pretty commanding spot here in Delaware, possibly the Mid-Atlantic, and I can get guys to come travel and hang out. I think that number is enough to get people to buy a hotel room for the night.
Yeah. Well, you're in a unique area because, like I said, for one, Delaware is a small state, but you're connected to all those states: Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland. It's like I hate driving down there because you got to drive through all that traffic in that area, and it's a busy area, but it's all connected. Like that whole area between, I think, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware. There's so many anglers down there, and it's in that sweet spot too, where a lot of them don't want to drive all the way down south to all the bigger tournaments. And you know what I mean? So it's a pretty money spot.
Oh yeah. Well, we think we're the hub. We're the epicenter. We're right in the middle. And it was super easy. Like this year, we stretched the tournament trail out. We took it from just being in Delaware. We have events in PA, Maryland, all over the place. And it was very easy to put a pin on the map and go, all right, tournament committee, here's the pin. Don't go more than an hour and a half. That way our farthest south person never drives more than 3 hours, and our farthest north person never drives more than 3. And the anglers are eating it up, because this is the year that we put title into it. That's a huge part of our world is title. And so we added that piece into it. And arguably, I think that's probably why we got Jake to pay attention, because we put him, instead of putting him on a small pond where, let's be honest, you cast enough Senkos around, you'll eventually catch something. Let's put him on a body of water that's really going to challenge the anglers.
Yeah, dude, that's what I wanted to talk to you about too before we came on. It's dude, title fisheries, man. There's 2 tournaments, that come up that way that I avoid. I keep saying I'm going to do them, but I avoid. One's the Susquehanna because, and then the other one is the Chesapeake Bay. It's really simple. I don't know how to fish those waters. When I look them up and I see what people are having to do, whether they're dragging a kayak or learning how to fish the title fish or whatever. Like they're just worlds I don't really like know. It's like, do I really want to pay that money and not go down there and not have time to really learn those kind of learn how to fish those kind of bodies of water, because it's just not in my wheelhouse yet. So I've been avoiding it until I can actually get down there and like play around and be like, okay, this is how you catch fish, or this is how you play in these kind of waters. But tidal fishery is, I was like dead set on going. I think it might have been the year that you won the KBF event there. I can't remember. I think it was 2019. I was going to go down there and do that event. And I pushed out, like I just got like the week that I was going to sign up for, like I'm not going down there to do that, man. And I thank God, because like the weather was shitty, and the not the weather, but like the water was rough, and I'm just like you're gonna go out there and just lose it all. So like, but it's tough. I don't know how to fish it. It's not a lake. It kind of, I probably could do pretty decent because I did grow up on the Gulf Coast, and I used to go redfish fishing and all that stuff. But still, it's different. It's a different way of fishing. There's different things you got to consider. Tell me something about tidal fishery.
I'll tell you what everyone's always told me, and what I've learned the hard way and spent a lot of money to learn. You fish what you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. You know, I've done the KBF National Championship a few times, and I've gone down and went to Kentucky Lake, thought I was going to drop shot ledges on Kentucky Lake. I come from Delaware. Their deepest pond's like 7 feet deep. I've never thrown a drop shot in my life. It was funny, we were just talking about the other day. I have a crankbait box. I got crankbaits that go 18, 19 feet. Shook my arm so hard I thought they were going to fall off. But with tidal, you find what you're comfortable in, and you play the tides. And that's really what it comes. They're going to bite on the incoming. You're going to hit a slack tide. They're not going to bite on slack tide, and they might bite on the outgoing. You play the tide swings. You got to be cognitive of, and it took me a long time to learn this too. If you see a tree that would be in the water at high tide, and that tide blows down, those fish still orient to that tree. Even though that tree's not in the water, they orient to that space. But the upper Chesapeake that you were talking about, same thing. I showed up the day before to pre-fish. The water was so bad, I was taking breakers over the bow, pushed myself into a creek. That's what I fish here at home. If I can't turn my kayak around because it's so skinny, I'm happy. I pushed myself back into a creek, and I was like, oh, they're here. That tournament, that was a stroke of luck. That should have never happened, ever happened the way that it went down. I caught my limit in like 15 minutes on a buzzbait. I mean, and I power poled down in front of that creek to lock it down, so I had it, and they were just jumping behind me. So bad that I was just like, oh, I'll drink this Red Bull while I wait for the time to tick by. I mean, it was incredible.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I've never had that kind of success on that shallow water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. See what you're going to say.
I was going to say that's you got to know your tides. Yeah. You got to know what you can get in and what you can't get into. And there's a lot of stuff here like that in Delaware, where once that tide blows out and you're in a creek, you don't know that you can't get out of that creek. You're gonna be dragging that boat through some stuff that you don't want to walk through. You know, I didn't
even think about that. Because like I said, growing on the Gulf Coast, like when the tide goes out, there's a big difference in what that water, like where the shoreline was, and like some of those what I guess you would call them saltwater creeks, or whatever you want to call them. But like the water draws out. Like I mean, and if you're stuck up there, like yeah.
I'm a big duck hunter too. That's what I do in my duck hunt and deer hunt my all time. And I've been on enough duck hunts where I've learned, because that water blows out in a tide and that boat's sitting high on mud, and you're calling a wife and telling her it's going to be 5 or 6 hours after when I told you I was going to get home. Why? Because I'm stuck in the mud and we're not getting out anytime soon. So you learn quick.
You really got to do your homework, right? As far as like knowing when I mean, I think it's like one of those times where like moon phases and obviously the tide. There's really things you got to consider, like how's that gonna affect the water? Where you're gonna be able to set up? How are fish gonna be able to stage and things like that. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot more that goes into tidal fishing or tidal fishing than just whatever regular bass fishing that we do.
Oh yeah, I mean it adds a whole different creature and beast to the whole show. You go to a lake or a pond that you got winter pool and summer pool, but you learn how to fish it in both, and you're good. Our ponds here, they never draw them down, so the water level's the same. Are they biting or are they not? You get in the tidal, and that's where a lot of people, I think, spin out pretty bad in tidal, is they can't tell if it's them or the tide why they're not catching fish. And you can
Right.
watch anglers all of a sudden. An angler goes by and his tackle box is blown up on his deck, and he's got 16 jackhammers laying across everywhere. And you're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I can't get a bite." It's because the tide's rolling, buddy. You're not going to get one. Like,
Is it
and
really? Does
you
it
have to
really
build
shut
that
off like
confidence.
that? Does
Oh
it really?
yeah,
It shuts off like that.
like flipping a light switch.
So you got a window of opportunity, and
Mhm.
you have to hit it at the right time.
Now, I'm sure some anglers can push through it, but I'm going to tell you, I've sat with guys that have literally just pulled their kayak up on shore and went, "Nope, I'm done." I've heard stories. I mean, we do the Bass Nation thing here in Delaware too, and they were telling me just the other day about a guy on the Upper Chesapeake. They got big grass flats out there, and they call them the flats.
Right.
And they said this guy sat out there, put both power poles down, and sat down and ate a sandwich. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm waiting for the tide." How can you be that confident? How can you be that confident? Roll out there, bet an 8-hour tournament on an hour and a half of a tide to
Yeah.
put your power poles down, never move because you don't want anyone else to touch your 50 yards of grass.
Right.
You got to have that kind of confidence when you roll into it, you know?
Well, how much do you think it affects? Well, obviously, you're going to know, like the Pawnee, the Potomac, like some of those rivers that feed into it. How much does the tide affect those? I mean, are those constantly flowing in?
Yeah, I don't know. I can tell you that I didn't see a massive. I fished the Susquehanna last year with everybody. I didn't see a big difference in the Susquehanna. I'm not super familiar with the Potomac. I can tell you the Nanticoke drops a little bit up and down. I mean, a couple feet, but nothing really significant. But even though the drop is low, that tide change is still something that does something weird to those fish, and they just don't like it.
Yeah, because the
So,
Potomac, the Potomac, where they're doing the Potomac at, it's right there. It seems like it's right there at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, right?
hmm
Yeah, I think it
yep.
was. Yeah, so I don't know. That was something when I was looking at that one. I was like, oh, I got to think about that. And it's just like it throws me off. It's like because that's a lot of money to go fish waters that you're not comfortable with, and it's just like a lake's a lake, and I definitely want to pre-fish and know what the bottom looks like and know where how the structure and the cover is, but still it's a lake. I could junk fish it if I need to. When it comes to like the
hmm
different type, like a tidal fisher, I'm like, well, I don't even know how to approach it, but I mean,
But that's the same with
yeah,
me. Talk about coming to fish with you and crystal clear water.
that's very
I could
true. Because like,
I can stick my hand in the water, can't see it 3 inches down. We don't tie leaders on anything. We throw straight braid on everything. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter. I went to Lake Marburg this past weekend and fished with a group up there, and the water was like 4 or 5 foot of visibility, and I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, well, why can I see the bottom? I don't understand what we're doing here.
yeah. Yeah, no, I can't wait to see some of these guys come up here, and we got that event on Cayuga. Granted, there are areas that they'll find like some comfortable in, but like there's some areas it's like I don't know if you guys are gonna have such a good time here because you might have to drop shot pretty deep, or you might like you might have to really, especially I'm really curious how people are gonna do when they come up to that the Hobie event on Champlain. Like there's a different like I tell you like we did Lake George. That was when I had to force myself to learn how to drop shot because the fish weren't. Why would the fish stay shallow when they can go to these deep, holding areas in the summer and just feed all day? It's just like there was nothing I could do. I had to go out there to 20, 30 feet of water and had to make sure I had to have four. Like I couldn't use braid anymore. I had to have a leader. It changed the whole way I fished. Like the last time I fished Lake George.
Yeah. I mean, you get comfortable in the way that you fish here or wherever here is for you, and then you come somewhere different. It's just a learning experience, and that's what I've always looked at the national championship for. And arguably, one of the reasons we changed a lot of our series this year was, are we really prepping our anglers when they go to fish these national events by only letting them fish a 300-acre pond?
Yeah.
What if we put them on tidal? What if we put them in some deep? Like we're going to put them on a deep body here soon, where everyone's going to have to learn something different. And then does that put our anglers in a better position when they go represent Delaware for Bass Nation, or when they
Right.
go up and run us because we're a KBF partner club and they go up and represent us somewhere else? And that was a lot of it. That we just wanted to shake things up a little bit.
Well, it's funny you say that because like I used to think the same thing. Like you need to go see like variety of water, and then all of a sudden like I met Derek Brundle and Matt Conant, and I found out that all they fish is ponds. Uh, and they can go anywhere in the country and whoop your ass. You know what I mean?
hmm And some people just throw a stick.
Yeah.
We got a couple guys that fish with us. You could put them in a bathtub and they'd still find a 20-inch fish. I mean, it's just insane. The rest
Yeah.
of us are out here screaming for them. But the best thing you can do is get a little bit of experience everywhere you go, you know?
No, I agree. I'm going to get down there. Like next time I see my dad, I'm going to take I'm going to take my time to get out there and learn how to fish some of that stuff. But like I said, it's different when it's like a tournament and you got money on the line and you got all those fees
Oh,
you
yeah.
got to pay.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a cheap sport. Like everyone acts like it is. It's like no, this is not a cheap sport. It's a very expensive sport. Ask my wife.
Oh, I listened to one of your earlier episodes and it made me laugh. We brought an insurance sponsor on this year. So the carrier insurance group here in town, because one of our anglers specifically went to him and went, you got to find a way to protect this stuff.
Yeah.
The cost is obscene.
Right.
I asked my wife just last year, I built out my new rig and I was like, look, let me go ham. I'm just go as crazy as I can go. And I'd sold another boat that I had. She's like, okay. By the time I was done, Josh, it almost made me weep. The amount of by the time you slap torpedoes and Dakotas and everything, you're like,
Yeah.
my God.
It's bad. Like I'm lucky that I'm a little more. What do you call it? I minimize this. Like I don't do a lot of. I don't do the motors yet. Like I'll tell you how this was. Like Jake, he's like, because I got the big water. He's like, well, Jake, you said the Predator. He's like, oh, well, let me hook you up with the guy, whoever. I don't think it's like a mutual friend that does like the motors. Like he'll put you do the whole kit for you. He's like, yeah, we'll get you a torpedo on it and everything. I'm like, well, how much is it going to cost? And he told me the price. I'm like, Jake, that's almost more than what I spent on the kayak, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I mean, like when I win the big check, then maybe. But right now, that's like I just convinced my wife to let me buy this new kayak, and now you're asking me to ask her if I can spend another $2 to $3 grand so I can get a special setup so I can be motorized. And Jake doesn't understand because I don't know how his home life is. My home life doesn't get. It's like I gotta go ask my wife. I'm like, hey, can I?
Oh, I get it. I got to ask, and then I got to spend equal on her when I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's a double purchase. But I went the motor route. It was really a touchy subject around here for a while. Motor, no motor, what do you do? And then after fishing a couple of national championships, especially the one 2 years ago in Louisiana, man, we were running miles. And I got to day 3. I was fortunate enough to make it to day 3, and I knew it was literally a drag race to get to where we were going. And I remember looking at my buddy. I went, "That'll be the last time I do that. It'll be the last time. I'll spend the money." And since I did, a lot of people would argue it's made me a worse angler because I spend more time throttled up on that torpedo shooting around than I probably do fishing. But
I think it depends on what you want to do. Because like I don't want a motor or anything to get from point A to point B that much. 'Cause I don't care. But what I do want it for is like when that water's rough and I want to stay on a spot. When I think about it, I'm like, oh man, how good would my crankbait fishing get? How good would my drop shot, fishing get if I had like a spot lock or something like that? You know what I mean? Because it's just like, dude, like I love crankbaiting, but like when you're really trying to be successful at it, like, and you're trying to hit like whatever, a hump or whatever structure you found out there offshore, it's like, it sucks having to go back and up it, drift down, go back up, drift down. It'd be so awesome if I just had a spot lock. I cast, catch a fish, I bring them up, pitcher, cast again. I spend most of my time trying to get back into position because, like that crankbait bite to me is better when the wind's blowing. When it's stirring them up, and that's the best time for me to use my crankbait. It just, there's a part of me that's like, oh, a motor would make me a better angler at that specific technique. Because right now all I do is a lot of I fish grass lines, and I fish grass. Because to me, it's without a motor, that's like that's how I'm really efficient at. Granted, I'm making excuses. I still get out there and crankbait when I need a crankbait, but still at the same time, it's like life would be a lot easier if I didn't have to keep going back to get myself in position. So I don't know. People say it's a touchy subject. My opinion is like, do whatever the rule set says. If the rule set says I can use a motor, why shouldn't I have a motor? I need to have a motor. That's one of the reasons why I avoided some of the KBM events this year, is because I don't have a motor. And I'm like, the last 2 years, I'm like, or last year or the year before, when they finally when Hoover made them legal, I was like, whatever, it's not gonna be that big of a difference. And I met Jared Brundle and Rob P and all those guys, and I was watching what they were able to do. I'm like, no, this shit ain't fair no more. Like, if I don't have a motor, those guys have motors. Like, I don't care. Like, I know everyone's arguing, well, it's not gonna make you a better angler. I tell you what, it's not gonna make you a worse angler if you know what you're doing and you have a motor. You still know what you're doing, and now you have a motor. It's there's a big difference. You know what I mean? So, and it's just one of those things. Like, if the sport said no, I'd be like, no. But the sport's saying yes. It's like, well, if you want to win a check, you might want to better your chances and do everything you can because that's what we're here for. We're here to win. And so, what do I want to do to win? Because if I can win, I can make up this money that I spend on this stuff. But if I don't, it's just one of those things. I don't know. Without it, it kind of dictates what you can and can't do. So, I might have to stick in this area because of the wind, or I might have to stay here because of this and that. And that's like, I just lost half the lake maybe, or I've just lost, half the playing field. So I don't know. It's just, to me, it's a no brainer. Like, if you're in a tournament that allows it, you should get it. You should definitely get it.
Yeah, if you can. And I'm going to tell you, you watch the rest of this year, I think they're going to get more and more and more affordable. You talk to the kayak shop here, you even talk to a lot of people around. Kayaks are growing faster than anything else is. And so as that happens, more vendors, suppliers, and people that have focused on the big boat world and so on are going to start really playing in the kayak space. You're starting to see it now. And I think it'll become, cost of entry will drop significantly at some point in time.
It has to, right? When it becomes more popular, and people start competing against each other, I imagine the price is going to go down just a little bit. But, honestly, it's depending on the route you go. Like, if I would have went with a Sportsman 120, I just would have got the spot lock. That would have been an easier sell for my wife. I'd be like, hey, babe, I'm buying a new boat. It costs, $4,000, with the spotlight. But I went with the big water, and there's no, I didn't have a motor for it. So it's like I didn't have a way to because now it's like for me to get a motor on, I got to get a special mount. Jake was telling me all about it. It made me sick to my stomach when he told me the price of it. I'm like, no, I can't do that, Jake. But but I mean, it's like I imagine the price will go down, and it's it's like once you open that box, like when Chad made it legal, and Bass Nation made it, like you can never close it now. Like, the only one holding out is Hobie, and I hope they hold out because I like to have option. I like to have one where you don't have a motor and have one where you do have a motor. But but going back to what I said, the box cannot be closed. And so this is what the sport is now. It's only going it's a technology that's only going to improve, and we've got to figure out where the limit is. Because eventually, I mean, who knows? You might be rockets going across the goddamn lake. You know what I mean?
Well, I tell you, you'd have told me 3 years ago that at some point there'd be guys out there running dual screens on kayaks. I thought I was crazy. I bought a 7-inch screen. Everyone's like, oh my God, look how big that thing is.
Yeah.
And now I hear about people running dual screens. I'm just like, oh, like what?
I think
how did we get here?
The first person I saw do, I think it was Cody Milton maybe, but they showed me, I'm like, that is ridiculous. But I mean, at the same time, I'm like, dude, he's going to crush it. The guy's already good. Now he's got 2 or 3 screens. I'm like, no wonder he went the new canoe, because that's like the most customizable boat you have out there. I mean, it's I don't know what. And that was I was trying to think about what's next for the sport, because we got the motors. I think it's electronics. I think the electronics is really going to be the next part of it. Like, how do you make these kayaks more electronic friendly? Like, one of the things I love about my kayak was the area where you can already install the transducer mount or whatever. That's a game changer. Like it's just so nice to have it where it's at, and I have to worry about I had to last year, and places where you can run the wire, and when you can have those dual screens and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's going to be, dude, where is the sport really going to go? I mean, it's I think it's good. People, go back to what you were saying. People talking a lot of shit about it. I think it's good because now we're getting people off the banks and off the shallows. We're getting out there in deep water. So now it's okay, now we're spacing it out because I remember, I don't know how many tournaments you've done, but there's been times where it's I'm meeting new people not because I want to, but because they're in my fishing spot, because there's nowhere to go. You know what I mean? So it's kayak fishing is the only sport I know that where a guy will just pull up to you 100 feet and start fishing close to you. But now with this offshore, you can look out there and there's just people everywhere. You're just off in their own little world. I think it's going to open where the shallow bite's not going to be so bad anymore, because it's going to be a little less pressured. because people are going to be going all over now. So I don't know. I don't know where like it really could try to factor. I mean, there's guys who just fish completely offshore now.
And even that, I mean, there was always guys that were going to do it, but the amount of people that are taking on that, the last event I was at, the amount of panoptics I saw sitting on boats, and I talked to an angler in the parking lot, and I said, I just out of curiosity, how deep are you into that? And when he spit that number out, it's probably the same thing you did when you heard Jake talk about the motor number. I went, what? What? That's what I paid. You take the first 3 kayaks I bought, and it didn't equal what you paid for that. I mean, how did we get here?
But I imagine you got to have a special mount for it. I'm not sure for the Panocchis, but the power you got to have, right? 'Cause let's just say you're running a motor too. Like, you're not just gonna have one lithium battery. You know what I mean? Like, you got a setup. Like, I mean, like, it becomes like it reminds me of like people used to have like speakers in the back of their vehicle. Like, they had to get like a cool crate and like all these things to make it. Like, you look at a guy's boat, it's like the way his batteries are set up and underneath here and wires running through here. It's just like, it's just kayak fishing, friends. It's just,
but I tell you, the one thing I do miss is you go back 3 or 4 years ago, and some of the listeners that have been here a long time will remember, we made everything out of PVC because there was nothing out there. You would go on Facebook, someone would be like, look at this rod rack I made. And then you would run to Lowe's, you'd buy PVC pipe and you'd come home and glue it together. It was that DIY mentality that was what really drew me in. Now, I mean, I call DPS. I'm like, hey, I need to do this. They're like, on the shelf waiting for you. We roll in. Cool. Sounds good. And I go down and grab it. So I just hope that we never get to a point where that was always the kayak thing. It was price per entry. You didn't have to have a 10, 15, 20, 70, $80,000 bass boat. You come out and be competitive in a $200 Pelican. I hope we don't push people from a perception wise that the cost per entry is continuing to rise and rise and rise and rise.
Right.
And that's one of the things we talk about a lot with our series. We never want that. We never want it to be that way. We want the guy that bought the Pelican at the yard sale for $25 and pray to God it doesn't have a hole in it to come and feel just as comfortable as someone else that's rolling in the door with, I mean, a trailer and $10,000 in rigs and electronics and motors. And we want everyone to feel the same, but I hope we don't ever get to that point.
Well, I think it's important. Like, what probably makes the sport so good is because you do have that the grassroots types, like the local. I think because here's one thing, I was having a hard time this year because I'm looking, Hobie raised their price to $260. I'm not mad about it. I'm not against it, but I'm looking at the same time. It's like, how much do I really want to do this as far, because I'm like you, I got kids, I'm a home, the home life and things like that. It's like, I'm not Christine Fisher. I haven't made that kind of crazy commitment where like, this is my life. So I look at that, I'm like, and not only that, but those people like these group of people, these core people are always winning these tournaments. Like you look at what happened to Texas this past weekend. It's like, oh, they're back. COVID kind of like threw a wrench in things. I'm like, oh shit, the crew's back. It's like Christine Fisher, Cody Milton, Matthew Scott, Jody Quinn. I'm like, oh, it's back to normal now. And so I'm looking like those guys all deserve. They all deserve to be there. They work their ass up, and so it's like at the same time, it's like maybe I should focus on this and build this and create that, because like I just look at like at some point like we all can't do those tournaments anymore because it's going to be for these elite anglers and the people who have the ability to financially do these things. And to me, I think it's important that we don't make that that's not where we all need to be. It's okay to go crush your region, to go crush your local tournaments and grow those and make them simple. Like you say, like where the person can come in with the Pelican, the $200 Pelican, and fish and be like, oh, I love the sport. And then he just grows with this community of people that he ends up becoming friends with. I think we're getting to a point and there's going to be a separation because we can't. For one, I think a lot of us are getting tired of getting our asses whooped because it's just one of those things. It's just like spend that money over and over again, and these people are just so good. And it's just like, why am I doing that? I'm not really a pro. I'm acting like I'm a pro, but I'm not really a pro. I need to go back here and I need to play. I need to just be what I'm going to be, whether it's a mediocre angler for the rest of my life, or eventually when it makes sense and I can go travel these and I start cashing checks and stop taking my money, my personal money to go do these things. But like go back to what you were saying, I know I went on a little rant, but those local, those grassroots, and one thing I hope to see more is more regional type tournaments. I know up here we're doing the Elite Kayak Fishing Series. I'm really excited about that. It's like I think it's 5 tournaments all over the Northeast. I don't think you guys are included in the Northeast with this one, but you guys got a Mid Atlantic thing. I think I know out there. I get the region, like the Midwest, whatever, like the mid the American class. What is it? The
American Classic.
Yeah, that one. I like to see more things like that where it's like you don't have to go do a Hobie event, unless you really want to. But like I don't know. I just feel like you make these elite things like the only thing that we're shooting for, and I think that kind of might take the sport to a weird direction where like the Pelican guy is not going to do that. You know what I mean? And I see a lot of people are going to kind of like be drawn away from it because it's just a lot of money and a lot of like risk, the value and cost effectiveness and the return on your investment type thing. It's just getting crazy now to me. It's just getting crazy to me. Like it's hard for me to like really like when I looked at it, I'm like, I'm not traveling to Texas to go get my ass whooped by Matthew Scotch. I'm not traveling to, you know what I mean? It's like I'm gonna stay here. I'll fish the ones that come here. Like I'm gonna do Lake Champlain. I'm skipping the Silsky, and I might do one more. But after that, I'm hanging out with my friends, and we're gonna do a bunch of local tournaments and try to build those and make those at least good feeder clubs. Hopefully we can get a few of those guys who get enough confidence and go out there and put ass whoopings on people. But I really think protecting our local clubs and our regional club is like the most important thing to me.
Oh,
that was a long rant, dude. I think I started like at 32 minutes, a 4-minute rant.
No, but you're spot on. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to roll down to the national championship.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to take a swing at the bat because no matter how you slice it, $300 for 50 or 70 or 100 grand, whatever ends up being, that's a good bet. Yeah. Might as well go. But like you, I got 3 kids. I'm a dad. I work. I'm a husband. I'm all those great things first. So I can't make that work. But what I can do, just like what you're doing, I can focus on making what's here really fucking good. Yeah. And if I make it really good and I continue to build it and build it and build it, maybe some of the guys either get better and now they are competitive in that space, or maybe some of them, because I got anglers that'll never travel. They'll always fish with me, but they'll never try. They're like, I'm not interested. I like being able to wake up at 5, go to Wawa, get a sandwich, get a coffee, show up and fish and go home, or go have beers afterwards, whatever the case is. So, but it's that. But I think you're hitting the nail on the head. And I heard one of your other shows. I was listening to it. I think there's a really good space for that regional thing. If someone could start to connect all those dots, I know other organizations have, but if you could take this grassroots that feeds a regional thing, and then that maybe the regions compete in some way, I think there's a really good space. And I don't remember who you were talking to that said it. Look at that target $100 entry mark. Yeah. Not 250 or whatever. That $100 where the average guy can still show up. He can still cut it out of his check and still have a little beer money left and go hang out and play, and
he only traveled 6 hours. Maybe, the Northeast is pretty big. Like it takes a while for me to get to Maine. But the cool thing about that though is I don't have to do the Maine one. There's enough other ones that I can hit. And vice versa for the people that are in like the Maine area. I just think it's, and I thought KVF, a lot of people were against it, but I kind of like, I wouldn't say the whole way KVF did it, but like the idea, like having those regional, the way they had it, like the year before, maybe last year, the year before, whatever, like when they had like regional areas, the Northeast. And I don't like the way the Northeast was set up, but but still, it's like I kind of like that a little bit. I don't think they did exactly what like I would like to see as far as like kind of what you were saying, like building something where it's like it really is like region against region. You know what I mean? Like at the end, like you have like a region, like you have a regional championship versus all the other regional championships, and you have like this incredible showdown of almost like real sports where you have to like win your region, win and like especially college or high school, college basketball and all those other things. We really got to win your conference and things like that to be able to go compete with the big boys. That would be like an idea if I could set it all up. I don't know how to do it yet. That would be like something I would like to see happen. And I think, like I said, sticking to that cheaper entry fee, so we can at least build feeder, use it as a feeder for like things like, look, I'll let Hobie have it. Hobie can be the most elite prestige tournament series out there, and I want to get people there. But I just, I don't want people to feel like that's where you got to be. It's like we can't all be there just yet, and let those let the big dogs go out there and compete, and then But I know
Yeah, because the guys are going to take the opportunity to fish Hobie when it comes to their backyard.
yeah,
The
right,
average dude, where he
yeah,
feels he's competitive, or her feel they're competitive. If you run Hobie up into the upper Chesapeake, don't care. I'll be there. Don't care what the
yeah,
price is,
exactly.
because I feel that I would be competitive against anyone that's on the water. But you take it up to the Great Lakes, I'm not making that drive. It's not there for me, and that's where I think the regional thing stands out. Hey, you want to do it? You look me up. I'll be happy to help. But
Yeah,
that's what Bass does. If you look at Bass and Bass Nation, that's how they're set up. They do SQT, a state qualifier. They take a team from there. They go compete in regionals. Whoever wins
right,
regionals goes and fishes a championship.
yeah,
I mean, it's a pretty simple structure. It's just no one has really figured out how to make it all gel and make it
right,
gel right. And a lot of people have tried, and a lot of people have done great. I mean, some people sleep on KBF. Chad built a lot of this,
yeah.
and he brought the attention to it, and for that, I'll forever be thankful.
No,
You might disagree with the way.
I had a
Go
really
ahead.
good time. Like even the things I said, the things I disagree with, it wasn't because dude, I was still having a great time. I'm just giving like
Mhm.
I'm the peanut gallery giving my 2 cents. That doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I'm not Chad Hoover, and I don't have all the responsibility and the risks that he has to put up with. So it's definitely not a shit on him. But but still,
No,
like
I'm not saying that you are, but you hear
I
a
never
lot
had a
of
bad
people that
time.
do.
But yeah, no, a lot of people give him a hard time. But yeah, but it's still like that whole regional thing. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people,
Mhm.
and what I liked about it is like you could travel. Like I was a Northeast guy, but I traveled some. I went down south to Santee Cooper and did that. You know what I mean? And it was fun. I had a good time with that whole format. I'm not exactly sure. I know why it had to be done with because it was just way too much stress for Chad Hoover. But
Oh,
you know,
I don't know that I ever quite understood. We talk about this a lot as a leadership team, what it meant to be a tournament director, what kind of
dude,
calls you were going to get, what that meant for fishing yourself, and the
yeah,
amount of work. I think Jeff said it in one of your interviews. They're the unsung heroes, and you don't realize it, even to the degree we closed down our event. And it's me and the leadership team putting everything away, putting the
yeah,
banners and the tables, and it's a lot. And I couldn't imagine what it's like doing it with 3 and 4. My hats off to AJ and Chad and
yeah,
all of them. 300 people. I do it with like 35 or 40, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to do this.
yeah.
Hundreds of people. What? Especially if it's a good day and everyone's catching fish. It's a lot.
Well, dude, like I mean, it's been hard for me. Like running my little one. It's just like we just like we're in the practice phase. Like we did a month long for just to get everyone comfortable with turning X, get everyone comfortable with like measuring fish and getting back into fishing. Before we start kicking these tournaments off because I wanted to run smoothly. But like how hard it is to deny someone a fish. For one, you worked during the offseason, you worked your ass off to get people to sign up for memberships, right? Because you wanted to have you. I'm like you. I want to be successful. I'm not getting paid for it yet, but I want to be successful. I don't know why it is. I just wanted to be as good as I could possibly make it. And you get there and you start doing it, and you realize, oh, I got to be that guy sometimes. It's like, am I going to lose a member because I got to deny his fish, or is he going to understand that he messed up, or did I leave something out of the rule book maybe that wasn't like specific? You know what I mean? It's just like these things, like they just. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, like, I don't know if I'm going to do it next year. I got to talk to Freddie about it. I'm like, dude, like, I run this podcast. I'm doing this. It's like, it's not the work that bothers me. It's like, it's the dealing with people and dealing with people's feelings. And it's like, because you can't be an asshole because you don't want to lose people, but you can't be weak either because standards and rules and all those things have got to apply and they have to be there because we watch what happens when people when they don't run it like that.
Mm-hmm.
For one, your character gets questioned, and then the trail gets questioned, like, and people leave it, and it's just one of those things. It's like, oh man, like the people aspect of it has been like the hardest one. And none that people that are listening, like you haven't been bad, but like these things that I think about, I got like you got to be strategic with how you handle these relationships and things like that. I'm just like, dude, I didn't realize that was gonna be like. I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, we're gonna pay, plan, pay, and fish. You know what I mean? I thought it was gonna be that simple. It's like, no, like you got to be like you got to deal with everybody. Everybody's got questions. You got to answer them.
Wait to the day one of your sponsors shows up with their son, who you've spent hours on the phone teaching how to do it, and they take 3 pictures of fish without identifiers.
Oh Jesus.
And then you got to make that phone call
Yeah.
and tell them, like, hey, it's your first tournament. Congratulations, you did great. But thank you for your support of the series too. But But I'm gonna say that the best thing we ever did. I don't know how guys do this alone. We established a team right out the gate. We keep it at an odd number. It's always come if it's not clear cut, it comes down to a vote, and whatever we vote, we all agree that that's the way we're gonna go. You know, there were people on the fence about catch boards, not whether to allow them, but do you cancel hog trough? Is that part of that cancel? Like just get rid of it, like it never existed. And
Yeah,
so we went to a vote. It was a 3-2 vote.
It made people pay $46. I mean, it's.
I believe the catch product's a better product every day, and I choose to run a catch, but that's $50. The hog trough's $19.99. They could pick it up at Cabela's or Bass Pro. There was a lot of different pieces to it, and how do you make that call? That's the stuff that people don't see, and I wish it was almost like a camera behind the scenes. The hours of conversations that you're constantly thinking about because you're in this growth cycle. You want anglers to be happy. You want them to enjoy. You want them to come back.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think everyone's like, oh, what? I don't make a penny off what you do. I want you to come back and have fun. Because if you come back and have fun, then more people will come and have fun. And I just want to, I want to continue to grow it organically. Right. But everything you say and do is questioned.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the hardest was picking the lake because everybody thinks that their lake's the best. They don't like, okay, well, how many launches does it have? Does it have good phone reception? How far does someone have to drive to be able to upload a fish? And just all these things like, well, it's a great lake. It's got great fish. Like, I know, but man, COVID's still a thing. And you only have one boat launch and there's boaters there. What are we going to do, guys? I mean, like, are we all going to cram there and put eyes on us for us? And next thing you know, we're disrespecting the, whatever. It's just all these things that like people just don't think. It's just like, I mean, I get it. Like people want to do these things and they're great lakes, but it's like at the same time, it's like I had to think about all this stuff, like why we're fishing this lake, why we're not fishing that lake, and tell people like, no, dude, your lake sucks. Like it's like it just. I mean, I would love to go fish it, but as far as like running, like it's not a tournament lake. I can't make that work. There's not enough boat launches. There's not enough parking places. Because I can't just think about you. I also got to think about all the recreational people out there. That like we can't be bullies or we're not gonna get respect from the community. And things like that. And so it's just like it hasn't been that hard, but it's things I got to think about. So I'm not saying like I've ran into like really bad problems, but it's things like that keeps me up sometimes at night. It's like, oh shit, what am I gonna do if this happens? How am I gonna handle this when this happens? When someone calls and bitches about me denying the fish, do I tell them to fuck off, or do I try to nicely explain to them? Or and then what if someone starts calling me out on Facebook, calling me a scumbag piece of shit tournament director? Well, it was like, well, what do I do at that point? Do I fire back? But well, no, you're just an idiot, you can't follow rules. Or do I be like, do I ignore it? I mean, it's just these things that I think about, like, man, I might have to deal with this shit, and like I got to make sure I do this right. So I know it's a lot of pressure a lot more pressure than I thought when I first got into it.
Oh yeah, our first year we had to make a weather call, and fortunately it worked out for us. And if you get a chance to look at the Facebook, we do everything via video. Just been the easiest thing that we do. And dude, people were blowing us up. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna have the event? I'm like, if I call it now on Wednesday and it doesn't rain, or scream at me and chop my head off and show up to my house with pitchforks. And if I do put you in the water and tell you it's a guaranteed, and you come down and then the weather's bad, you're gonna hate me. And like, there's no right answer. I'll run it as late as I can, And so even with that, we had the event, and we were running a couple different bodies of water because there was a large amount of people. And the rule was because we split our leadership team up and put people at different bodies of water. There was lightning, we were pulling you off the water. I had an angler that was with me that I took off the water because there was lightning and thunder, but 30 miles in the other direction, there wasn't. And those anglers were still fishing. And he's like, well, that's not fair. I can't have you on the water in that situation. I can't. What if you get hurt? And that's what I always tell my anglers. What if you get hurt? What do you want me to tell your wife? Explain to me right now what you want me to tell her, how I should approach that conversation, and we'll move forward. And that's normally when they sit back and I'm like, okay. But everything you choose, and I guess that's just the tough part of it. You can't make everybody happy.
No, and it's just really weird because it's like most of the people that bitch and don't want to be tournament directors. That's been like the most, like, when I hear people bitch, it's like, yeah, but you've never, like, all you do is fish. Like I mean, like if I have one person ask me like, "Oh, are you going to fish your events?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to fish my events because if I don't fish my events, then I'm not doing this shit." And you don't have a tournament. There's no tournament series. Like
Mm-hmm.
you either got to trust me or you're not going to trust me. But it's just like it's like, are you going to run a tournament? Like, no, I want to fish. I'm like, okay, we all want to fish. So like, he's
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you guys want? Do you want this or do you not want it? Because if you're not going to do it and I'm not going to do it, no one's going to do it. So one of us has got to do it. So no, it's a burden, and like I'm not getting paid yet, but if I keep doing this, like, there better be some monetary value.
Well, you let me know when you figure that piece out, and we'll figure out how that looks because
Well,
I haven't figured it out yet.
yeah,
But
that's probably why like you got to like the smart thing to do that. You got to change tournament directors every few years because
well, I'm going to tell you, and I hope any of my DPS guys are listening. Everything's built in Google. You raise your hand, I'll happily give you the password and the keys to the kingdom, and you could take her over. But that was my thing. I had an angler come up to me. He's like, "Oh, have you always wanted to do this?" No, not even a little bit. I want to fish. I want to
yeah,
compete. That's what's in my heart.
yeah. The
But
only reason I did this, man, the only reason I did it was because COVID happened. We couldn't travel, and like most of my state tournaments were out west towards the Finger Lakes, and I live in a really unique area. I live off the Oneida, and then I go up north, and there's like the St. Lawrence River and all that. So like I'm in a Mecca. So it's like, why am I traveling all the way over there when I got all this shit over here? So that's the reason why I did it. Where was I going? But that was why I did it. Like I saw the opportunity. I'm like, okay, this is
mm-hmm,
why we've got to have this because I don't want to travel, and there's a lot of anglers here who have to travel the same amount of distance, and so it made sense. You know what I mean? It made
mm-hmm.
sense to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that was my thing. I consistently was that guy that went, "Well, I'd have done it this way. I'd have done it this way." Well, and then they called my bluff, and they're like, "Cool, you want to come do it?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure, all right." Can't be that guy. But that's what that's what I would tell any angler. If you think you could do it better, don't say it unless you're willing to step up to the plate and do it and invest the hours that come
Right.
into it. So
Right.
it
All
was
right, man. Well,
fun.
we'll wrap this thing up soon. Real quick, what's the rest of the season looking like for you? Your season's kind of just started, right? April,
Yep.
and so you got a whole. So do you got stuff coming up? What tournaments you fishing? Like, what does 2021 look like for you, bud?
So I'm going to continue to run the DPS series here. We're growing that series. We've spent a lot of time talking about that. I don't actively fish in the series. I run around with a camera and a drone and take pictures and do all that stuff. We're really trying to help anglers with the social media perspective. I'll probably fish a few of the MKBF events. I'm going to fish the Susquehanna. I'm going to head down to Louisiana. Honestly, my favorite place I've ever traveled to fish. So
Okay.
I am super over the moon about that. I might hit the Potomac. I don't know yet. But Josh, I'm building a series, and it's not just me. It's the team. But we're building it to make it something that eventually I can turn over, and me and my son can show up, and we can fish, and I can be proud, and he can be proud that, hey, this is what we're doing. So we're doing that. We got, stay tuned. Anyone that's from Delaware, we got some pretty big announcements coming. We're gonna stretch our wings out just a little bit more. We have a few more surprises up our sleeve. Maybe adding some snakehead stuff into it, but that's for another story for another day. But that's really it. That's what life looks like for me right now. Run the series, fish when I can fish, and do what we do.
All right, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Last chance. Put some plugs. Thank some people who make fishing easier for you. Anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. First off, Delaware Pal Sports, they rock the series. They have me on the fishing team. I couldn't do it without them. Native Watercraft. My choice of vessel. I've always been a native, and don't know that I'd look anywhere else. Dakota Lithium, Stormy over there. If you haven't checked out Stormy and what he's doing, that's some really awesome stuff. I got a local bait maker here, Vaughn Baits, that really takes care of me and the series. Mustang, and there's a lot of them. Never Lost Gear. Everyone that works with me works with the series and really does a lot for everyone here in the Mid-Atlantic area. So thank you to each and every one of them. And thank you to you, man. It's people like you that are getting us out there and getting us the exposure for these series and helping us grow the grassroots side of it.
All right, cool, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Hopefully, I can get down there. Well, eventually, I imagine me and you're going to meet, fish, and drink beer. Like my dad lives in Delaware, the Dover area, so it's got to happen eventually.
Beer's on me. It's always
All right,
cold.
man.
You let me know when you're rolling in town.
All right, cool, dude. Have a good night, man.
All right, bye.